Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Adrienne. I'm a licensed esthetician and a makeup artist. I love anything makeup and beauty related. And today I'm coming to you with a first impression of the Colourpop Smoke and Roses palette. And I also picked up the brush set that goes with it during the holiday sales. Today is going to be a little bit of an abnormal video. If you're new to the channel, I'm going to be going through some diagnosis that I've got. My viewers that have been with me for a while now know that I've been struggling for the last year and 8 or 9 months with health issues, and I did finally get diagnosed. So I am going to try to do a full face of makeup and talk to you guys about my diagnosis and what's going on while I'm doing a first impression of this palette. But first off, I want to take this out of the box and show you the outer packaging. The box is not quilted, I don't know what you would call it, but it's that soft textured box. The print on it is just a pretty florally type design, kind of paisley, but not really paisley, just more of a lace type pattern on this palette. It reminds me texture wise of the Berry Essentials palette and what is it, Stone Cold Fox. And this one is a 30 pan palette, just like those other bigger Colourpop palettes. It's a cool tone palette and it looks like it would really complement the Stone Cold Fox. I'm not going to be swatching this palette yet. I will do more videos with it, but I wanted to make sure that I got to this palette right away because I am palette obsessed. I have so many palettes, but right now I really wanted to chat with you guys about the diagnosis that I've got and the direction that my channel is going to be going in. I will be revisiting this palette, but my main focus was just to get a look done with this palette before I shove it in a drawer somewhere and don't get back to it because I have so many palettes. But I'm going to go ahead and open up this brush roll. I haven't even peeked at it. And I honestly can't even remember how many brushes are in it. Oh, wow. They've got it closed pretty good here. They didn't tie it in a bow. They just kind of wrapped it around and tucked it under. The brush roll does smell like that chemical plastic smell, and I imagine that's probably the outer packaging, and these are the brushes. And I'll have to put on the screen how many brushes are in here because I really don't remember, and I probably should have taken the plastic off of these brushes, but I'm going to go ahead and struggle through as I go, and I'm chit-chatting. I'll give you a little bit of backstory in case you are new to my channel about what's been going on over the last year and 8 months or so. I was working as a travel nurse when all the health conditions started as of November of last year. 2020, I stopped working as a travel nurse and came home to work full-time as my son's caregiver and opened my esthetician business back up and started working as a licensed makeup artist. Well, yes, I am a licensed makeup artist, but as a makeup artist, due to the healthcare issues, residual healthcare issues that I was having left over from being ill. When this initially started, I was working out of town, and right now I'm going in with a MAC paint pot and laying low. I was working in a town about an hour and a half away from where I live in labor and delivery, and that's when the COVID-19 virus first hit, and we didn't think it was going to be as big of a deal as what it's turned out to be. Obviously, to everybody's surprise, this is quite the big deal. But the first few months it was out, I did fine, and I had one night at work where it was so hot and stuffy on the floor, and I do have a history of some asthma and bronchitis type illness from childhood. And I was working and just started feeling really sick, and my heart was racing, and I'll get more into the heart racing. That's not uncommon for me, but I just didn't feel good. And I kept telling the girls that I was working with that I felt funny, and they were like, do you need to go down to the emergency room? And I just kept saying, no, I think I'm going to be fine. Finally, a couple hours later, I was like, I really am not doing so hot. And this is a brush that came out of that set. It's a brow brush. So far, so good with it. I'm going to go in, if I can find it. I know I just set it out here with my Benefit Brow pencil, and I don't know what shade this is in. I'll have everything listed down in the description box. But they ended up taking me down to the emergency room, and I told them that I had taken, because I had medicine that helped to slow the heart rate down from being so high. And I could see from my Apple Watch that I was starting to skip some beats with my heart rate. And that's kind of common with the condition that I had diagnosed years ago from having hyperthyroid back when I was in nursing school, like 2006. So they take my vital signs, and I'm not really paying attention to anything, get an IV started on me and all the blah, 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 vital signs, all that stuff. So at some point, and I can't promise you what these brows are going to look like because I never do my brows on camera, so they may be a hot mess. I may have to go and straighten them out afterwards because I really can't see that well. But I happened to look up at the monitor because they brought a guy in next to me and put him in the bay next to me. It wasn't separate rooms or anything. It was just a big bay with lots of curtains. And for some reason, I was a little bit confused, and I looked up at the monitor and I saw my heart rate was like 236 over 110. And I thought it was his vital signs. And I remember looking at the nurse and saying, you know, whose vital signs are those? Whose blood pressure is that? And she's like, that's yours. And I was like, no, I don't have high blood pressure. And she's like, yes, ma'am, it is. So I thought, wow, that's strange. Well, I ended up going to a cardiologist since I did have, you know, some cardiac issues left over from hyperthyroid years ago. They sent me to a cardiologist, and I wore the Holter monitor. If any of you guys have ever done that, you know, sometimes you can wear it up to 30 days, but I only wore it for 72 hours and turned everything in, melded everything in, and it came back and they said, well, we saw where your heart was skipping a few beats, but nothing really serious that we're concerned about. You know, everything looks good. And for the next month, because this was March 26th when this happened, I just continued to feel not good. And I was telling the girls that I worked with, one of the girls, we were getting off a shift, and I said, you know, I don't know what, and I'm just taking the brushes out of the package that I'm going to use, what's going on, but I really just don't feel good, like something's not right. I know everything keeps turning up right, but something's not right. Well, I got a call from my manager that I had been exposed to somebody who had come down with the COVID virus. Like one of the Sundays that I worked, I think this was like Wednesday or something, that they were COVID positive and that I had been exposed. But I wasn't having any symptoms, didn't feel ill at all. It wasn't until like, I think a week later. And I'm going to take this brush here and let's see, stop chatting for a minute and figure out which shade I want to go in with in the crease. I really want to do a super pink look. So I'm going to start out with this shade here and tap this brush off. So when I started getting sick, I was staying in that town because at this point COVID had become a little more serious and they had put everything basically on the lockdowns. And so I had an RV in that city at that time, and I was staying there away from my family. They would come over and we would sit outside and visit once a week. Well, I had been telling my husband all the while about my heart beating so fast, like I would get up to walk 20 feet to the bathroom and have a high heart rate and feel like I was going to pass out. And so, and I told him, you know, it felt like I was starting to have the asthma symptoms and stuff again, which is typical in the spring and the fall for that stuff to flare up. And I was like, I'm really not feeling well. And finally, he and my son got tired of me being gone all the time. And they're like, we're coming to get you. And it was a good thing that they did that night because I ended up being like so sick for the next 3 weeks. And it started the next day. I was on breathing treatments, nebulizers, and steroids for the lungs, and then oral steroids for the whole system. And gosh, what else was I taking? They ended up putting me on a Z-Pack, and basically at that point in time, I did have like all the straight up COVID symptoms, and I'm going to go in with this flat brush. I think I want to try this shade here. I had all the COVID symptoms, lost the taste, lost the smell. That's the sickest like I've ever felt all at once. It felt like I had 3 or 4 flus at a time, and I was like laid out flat on the couch for 3 weeks straight and couldn't work. Once I was able to go back to work, I never felt 100%, and I continued to struggle with a fatigue, a weakness, and brain fog. And I can remember one night driving to work and chatting with my husband on the phone, and I said, you know, it really just, it feels like all the time, like I've been out partying the night before and like I'm hungover and sluggish, just that flu, hungover, sluggish feeling that I had all the time. Well, the fatigue was so extreme. Like I would just be praying to God, like, just let me make it through the shift. Let me be able to take care of everybody like I'm supposed to and do what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to scooch over a little bit. I see I'm so off center. And I'm sorry about this mirror being in frame. Normally I don't have it in frame. I have it out of the way, but I just really wanted to get this video filmed today. And so I continued to struggle like that. And most of the time I was really fatigued. Occasionally I would have some days where I wasn't like bedridden fatigue, but I never felt like 100% like myself. And I was always sluggish and always super tired, never felt rested. This just kept going on. And being a nurse, nurses are the worst, of course. Oh, I'm sorry. I am going in with this shade here. Nurses are the worst about going to the doctor. You know, we're always trying to self-diagnose and figure out what we got going on ourselves. I didn't go, and I just didn't want to be bothered, because everything, if you called the office with anything, you know, it was all going to be a COVID related type diagnosis or, you know, screening for COVID. And I just did not feel like doing it because it took so much energy just to get up and go to the doctor's office. So basically up until March, April of 2021, I felt so cruddy that I couldn't think clearly and couldn't do things like I used to at all. And I basically just sat around a lot. And I'm going to go in with this brush. This looks like a denser blending brush where you could build up some color. And I'm going to go in first, I think, with the shade next to this pink shade that I used in the transition as a base shade. But I went ahead and opened my businesses up. As you guys know, I've taken you on tours. Ooh, this brush really does pack it on. So I got those two open, and I was feeling better, but never normal. And I would have some severe fatigue days where I'd be nauseous and dizzy and just so weak and tired and kind of in a fog. But it wasn't every single day. The intensity wouldn't be so bad to where I couldn't function. I just never felt normal, but I could still function. So I have been struggling with that. And with my new insurance, I had to switch network of doctors. So I had to get a whole new healthcare team. I'm not allowed to go to the prior doctors I had. And I was thinking, great, you know, when I do have to go in for my annual checkups and stuff to get my prescriptions renewed, I would really don't want to have to start out with the new doctor, because I do feel like the doctors that I have, you know, they're good and they listen. They just weren't finding anything with the testing. So in the middle of October, I did go into my new doctor, and she did order some testing, and most of it did come back normal. Let's see, did anything come back abnormal? Only like one thing slightly abnormal that doesn't pertain to anything I have. But like I said, I have a history of hyperthyroid. So anybody that's had thyroid issues like my TSH and T3 and T4, and free T3 or whatever, free T4, that all came back within normal range. And the labs that she ordered were all fairly decent. So I had a lung function test because my lungs have been flared up for so many months. Like, well, I shouldn't even say months. I should say for over a year. I have been using my inhalers and stuff, and they just hadn't been calming down. Well, it took them like 2.5, 3 weeks to get that pulmonary function test scheduled. So by the time I got in there, the first cold of the air had started happening around here, and my lungs get better. You know, they do worse in the spring and in the summer, and spring, summer, and fall. So they'd already started to calm down, and I'm going to take the same brush that I just used before, and I think I want to go in with this shade here. And I told them, I was like, my lungs have been great for like over a week. I've not had to use my inhalers or anything. So I really hate that you're testing me right now, because my lungs are feeling and doing a lot better. So they were like, well, if anything's wrong, it still should show up on the function test. You know, it just sounds like asthma symptoms that you're talking about. And if those are gone, great. But any other damage should show up on the function test. And by damage, I mean like COPD and just severe lung damage. So everything came back fairly decent with that. Like, all the results are good, except it showed that I was trapping a little bit of air in my lungs, which means basically not able to fully exhale everything that I'm supposed to exhale. But it's not super bad, and it said of unknown origin. So the doctor thought that, you know, that was fine and was not really going to pursue that anymore. And eventually in the spring I will go back to a new pulmonologist, see a new pulmonologist, because this was just my primary care physician with this. But I had remembered that last year in November when I was sick, because I get ultrasounds done on my thyroid, that my thyroid was inflamed. So she said, I want to send you to endocrinology. And the appointment for endocrinology, mind you, this is in October. I just saw the endocrinologist last week. The first week of December, December 2nd, was when I finally got into the endocrinologist. But thank goodness, after I saw that new doctor, and I think I'm going to pick up that first brush that I went in with, fluffy brush. And this is all looking a little more pink than what I wanted right in here. So I'm going to go in with this shade that looks like it's got a little bit of warmth in it, a little bit of peach, instead of going back in with more of that. But I went to my gynecologist and I told her, my nurse practitioner, how I'd been feeling and how it all started and everything. And she said, I'm going to go ahead and test you for autoimmune disorders, you know. She was asking me, does lupus run in my family? And I told her not that I knew of. And she said, well, we're going to test for lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, and also an ANA, what's called an ANA titer, and that's just test for autoimmune disease, period, throughout the body. And I said, okay, you know, I'll go ahead and do that. Just test for whatever. I mean, do something, anything, try to find out what's going on. So the rheumatoid arthritis came back negative, and so did the lupus test that came back negative, and I was really excited. Well, the ANA titer came back positive. And ANA titer is not specific for a condition, but it does say that you have something going on with your immune system possibly. Now, there are some people that do have positive ANA titers that don't have any issues at all. And it is possible for an older person, the older you get, to have a positive ANA titer and not have anything going on autoimmune wise. So she said, because of this, you know, now you've got this positive titer, we're going to go ahead and refer you. And while I'm talking and staring at the camera, I'm going to go in with this shade here. I might end up regretting it because I cannot tell. It almost looks black, like a purplish black, but a lot more purple. I just want some depth of color. And right now, looking at this brush set, I don't know if this one's gonna work, but this is what I'm seeing that might work to create that depth of color, so I'll try it. But she referred me to rheumatology, and thank goodness I got in within, and so I'm using that shade, got in within a week or two. And as soon as I was there, from her questioning me about all the things that have been going on, and just doing assessments on me, we got some things figured out. Meanwhile, you know, before I got to her office, I had started having more muscle weakness, off and on, to the point of where coming down my stairs at home, sometimes once I'd get the momentum going, I would not be able to stop, and I would have to kind of, not full force, but I would run into like the door to my house to stop myself at the bottom of the stairs. And my mother and father-in-law live with my family, and they had seen this and were looking at me, seen me do this a couple times, like, what, you know, was going on? And I was just like, huh, you know, they know I don't feel good a lot of the time. I was like, I just got going too fast. And you know, I didn't think anything of it the first time, but like the second time it happened, I thought, boy, I really had a lot of momentum going, and I really was not able to slow down myself, you know. So they're like, well, that's scary because you could fall doing that. And I was like, you know, whatever, you know, suck it up. I was still from the attitude of trying to suck things up. The problem was, as sick as I'd been off and on, there was no suck it up, because it was like being drunk and hungover all the time, or once it got super bad, it would feel like I had the flu, like the feverish, the aches and pains all the time. And the aches and pains were starting to increase, but that's not uncommon for them to increase in the cold where I live in the Midwest. And I've struggled with that for years, since, you know, traumatic injuries left over from a car accident. You know, I just thought I had whiplash in my joints and had some arthritis, because I was told by the doctors when I had that accident that that could happen. So any symptom that I had an excuse for it. Well, the doctor, I was telling her about the muscle weakness and all the just chronic fatigue and the brain fog, being in a fog and not being able to think straight and clearly. And in the mornings, like the bones in my feet, when I get up to walk through the house to go help my son, it feels like the kind of like you wore, I don't know if you guys have worn 5-inch heels, but like you went and walked on concrete for 8 or 9 hours in 5-inch heels, and the bones in your feet feel like they need to pop, but the pain is sharp and it's sore and it's achy. Well, I would have that every morning, and my neck and lower back would be stiff, and, you know, just achy stiffness all over. And it would take me a lot of times until mid-morning to get going. But if it was one of those days where the fatigue was really chronic and I felt flu-like, this brush is a pain in the butt for building the color in the crease. It does a good job for getting it concentrated, and I'm going to take it and blend a little bit here close to the lash line. It's awesome for that. So for a smoky eye brush, I think it would be phenomenal, but it's not, you know, the best for what I'm using it for, but I really like it down in the lash line. Back to what I was saying, just the achiness all day, and some days it would not go away. And I even had days where when I was at the shop, like doing Brazilian waxes on somebody, of course with the mask on, that doesn't help. And I use a huge wax pot with 5 pounds of hot wax that can get up to 100 degrees. So I'm standing over that and the person in my room with the mask on. So I just attributed it to, oh, I'm just getting a little bit overheated. But she's like, honey, are you okay? You know, and I was getting lightheaded and dizzy and feeling faint and just not good. And I told her, you know, I talked to her because she was referred to me from another girl that I worked with about what was going, kind of like being sick. I had been sick before, thinking that I was recovering from that virus. And she said that she had the virus too, and she was recovering from a lot of residual effects, and was telling me how I needed to go and see, I forget what type of doctor she's seeing that's managing some of her symptoms, and it sounded like that's what was going on. And so I took the information from her, and this is just the Physicians Formula eyeliner that I'm going to go in with. And so I kept that in the back of my mind, but I couldn't go to that doctor because I have to switch that hospital network. Well, I'm so sorry for skipping all around so scatterbrained. Back to the rheumatologist. So I'm telling her all of this about the waxing and about passing out, the coming down the stairs and not being able to stop. And that Sunday before I saw the rheumatologist, it was really cold and windy here. And I was out at my stepson's house out in the country, and the wind was blowing so hard, and I was freezing, and my joints stiffen up so bad when I'm freezing. I went to step up on his porch, and I was in full motion. The muscles in my leg were so weak and so stiff, it wouldn't step up. It lifted off the ground, but it would not step up. So I was going forward full body weight, so I fell forward and fell on the porch, and I knew right then, with everything mixed together that I had been feeling, I was thinking in my head, oh my gosh, please tell me, you know, I'm not having MS, that I don't have MS. I was thinking maybe, oh, am I having like symptoms of multiple sclerosis? But he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, my legs just wouldn't work right. And he helped me get up, and I got in the house, and I was fine. And I told my husband, I was like, my legs just wouldn't work. Like, I was working hard to lift them, and they just would not lift. And so he was concerned about that, of course. And I said, well, I go to that rheumatologist later this week. So when I got there, and guys, I'm sorry about this, but I need to grab a tissue. My nose is running from messing with my eyes. She immediately diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. There's points on your body that they check, and I had all those sensitive tender points, and fibromyalgia can be caused, like the trauma of the car accident could have set that off, and just several other symptoms that I've had because I've had so many diffuse symptoms all over the place. It's too much to tell you in this one video, but when you mix them all together, it started drawing a picture. So she said, of course, we're going to get lots more labs done, and she said it was like a page and a half worth of labs. And she's like, you'll see the labs before I do. I will get back to you, you know, within a few days of you getting the labs. They're going to come in at different times because some of them had to be sent out of state. But we're going to test you for more autoimmune disorders and things like that. So I told her that I was just coming off of the best 3 weeks that I have had since before I got sick. I told her, I said, you know, I have been having like the best 3 weeks, feeling like almost back to normal energy-wise. And I thought, go figure, you know, I finally am feeling great after all this time of feeling crummy now that I'm going to the right doctors. And I said, you know, I'm starting to not feel so good again, though. You know, the pain's coming back, and I'm getting really stiff again. And so she was checking all my joints, and she's like, there doesn't feel like inflammation in the joints or anything like that. But she's like, you have fibromyalgia. We're going to start you in pool therapy, warm pool therapy. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I got the lab work done. And of course, I mean, when she ordered all kinds of labs I've never even heard of. Well, they started coming in, and most things started coming back negative. But then some of my markers for inflammation in the body were pretty high. And if any of you suffer from thyroid disease, there are some other thyroid labs that aren't in the routine TSH and T3 and T4 that get ordered when you're just having all kinds of symptoms and not able to figure out what's going on. Oh, I don't think I showed you, but that was just the orange LA Girl Pro Concealer, and this is the Too Faced in, what is this, Butterscotch. It's their concealer that they can order. So that level was super, super, super high for that, like way off the chart. It's supposed to be, I think, like 0 to 14, and mine came back like in the thousands. And so they gave me, when they gave me a call, they said, hey, you know, we can't diagnose you with the Hashimoto's, but you're going to the endocrinologist tomorrow, and she'll have to look at the labs and determine if that's what's going on. But we're pretty sure that's Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So I said, okay. And I had already figured out from looking in my nursing textbooks and things like that what the other labs that were out of order were. And I tested positive for an RNP titer. It's the U1 RNP titer, and that is mixed connective tissue disease. So I was happy to finally get some answers as to why I'd been feeling so horrible, and that I was not crazy and making all this up in my head, because I mean, it's been debilitating to where I cannot work as a nurse. There's no way, unless I was just working like a nursing phone line or some nursing office job. Like, I could not tolerate running the halls in the hospital right now or concentrating and thinking about that stuff. And I've been having so many problems, like just with concentration in general, and that is so not like me. But the mixed connective tissue disease is in the family of lupus and scleroderma, and rheumatoid arthritis. But that RNP titer is specific for the mixed connective tissue disease. And basically what the mixed connective tissue disease is, an overlap of all three of those conditions. So the whole disease process of rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or scleroderma, I'm not likely to have the whole process. I'm likely to have bits and parts of each one of them, or more than one than another. Basically, it's an inflammatory disease where your autoimmune system attacks itself. And let me grab my foundation, using the Too Faced Born This Way foundation in Butter Pecan. Your immune system is attacking itself, and it causes inflammation throughout the body. And so all three of these conditions, the Hashimoto's, the fibromyalgia, the mixed connective tissue disease, they all cause fatigue and weakness. And, you know, a lot of times it's not just the fatigue and weakness. Like I said, it's the brain fog. It's the dizzy and nauseousness. Just having all that together. It's like having an extreme flu all the time when you're having a flare-up. Well, I've been flared up pretty much for the last year and 8 months, except for some reason when I had those 3 good weeks back at the beginning of November. And I'm really hoping to get back there. With these autoimmune diseases, there is no cure for it. All they can do is basically treat your symptoms, and you try to get the inflammation down in your body. So I'm working hard right now, and I just started like 3-4 days ago with a very restrictive diet to help calm the inflammation in my body and maybe get it to stop attacking itself so much, so that I don't have to go on steroids or some other immunosuppressive medication. This is something that I'll be continuing to deal with. I can go into remission. I will be following up with my doctor like I'm supposed to, because that's one of the most important things, even when you feel good, is to keep up with the doctor's appointments and have your labs done when they recommend it, because you may feel okay and you could still have some inflammation attacking your organs, because it can be serious and attack like lungs and heart tissue and damage them, cause serious damage to them. So that is why, before my camera so rudely cut off on me, basically what I was saying, I'm not sure where it cut off, but That is why sometimes I make a comeback to YouTube and then disappear again and can't keep up. I am a lot of times sick and in the bed and just trying to get strength and energy up, and I'm going in with the Juvia's Place Cameroon foundation stick to contour. And I never know like how much it's gonna take me to bounce back from all of that. Like right now I had started feeling better, like I said, and I thought, oh, I'm going to do Vlogmas. And so I started, my camera cut off on me again. I did blend that Juvia's Cameroon foundation stick out, and everything was so dewy that I went ahead and set my T-zone area right through here with the Makeup Revolution banana powder, pressed banana powder. I did go ahead and blend that contour stick with the Sigma brush here. And now I am going to go in with this bronzer here. I think it's Kenya, something I got in BoxyCharm, and I'm going to take one of the new brushes. I think I'm going to use this angled brush from that set. And, oh, let me pay attention to what I'm doing and not overdo it too much. That works really well as a bronzing brush. So with this palette, I've just gone in and taken some of the contour bronzing shade and going around the perimeters of the head. But back to what I was saying, I was starting to do Vlogmas, and I started that in November, and I was posting every day and feeling great and doing good and still seeing clients, and I was doing fabulous with that. I mean, recording and uploading every day can be a little bit stressful. And then I went to our Thanksgiving family gathering. It was too much for me on top of doing the Vlogmas. It was highly overstimulating for me. It was kind of noisy and just busy, and the foods there that I was eating, it sent me into a flare-up. And I've gradually, since Thanksgiving, it started feeling really bad. And for the past week, today's the first day since around that Saturday following Thanksgiving that I haven't pretty much been in bed all the time trying to recover and feel better. Now, since I've gotten the diagnosis last week, obviously I didn't have it before Thanksgiving when I went to that gathering and all that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone. It really was too much for me. And so I'm going to really have to control my stress levels and be careful like what I take part in. And I'm going to use a Colourpop blush. I think I'm going to go in with the See You Later. I think this one's discontinued, but so many of their blush shades all look the same anyway. I'm going to take another one of their blush brushes, the full one, and I'm going to go in lightly because that other slanted blush brush picked up a lot of product. But let me start clear in the back in case it's too much. Seems like it's going to do just fine, but yeah, I got overstimulated, and like for what would be about 2 weeks now, I have not been feeling good, and I've pretty much been bedridden. And over the past 4 days up into today, I mean, I wasn't able to leave the house, and it was just a goal to take a shower, and it took me 3 days to have enough energy just to get in the shower. So I really have to watch how much of everything that I'm doing, and that translates into the YouTube channel this way. You guys know I'm friends with LBD Beauty, Lynette. She was telling me last night when I was talking to her on the phone how to work my community tab. So I thought that I had to have 1,000 subscribers to be able to post there, but I found out that I will be able to communicate with you guys through the community tab. So when I'm not feeling well and unable to record, instead of just completely disappearing, that is my goal, is to keep up with you guys on the community tab. Also, I will show you what the ribbon looks like for multiple connective tissue disease. When you see that ribbon, because I want to work on trying to get some, this is Thrive mascara that I'm using right now. I want to work on getting some stuff pre-recorded, so if I'm having some down weeks here and there, I still have content recorded. If you do see it with this ribbon in the video, like if I have it up by my head or in part of the video, just know that, you know, you're watching a pre-recorded video and I'm just trying to rest up and get back on track. So if I'm not able to answer my comments down in the comment section, I'm not responding quickly. It's not that I'm ignoring you. I'm just not 100% and I'm trying to recover and can't keep up with everything. And also, now that I found out that I can do lives, there are times like today, I've just started feeling better after a week or so of being bedridden, but like my brain feels fine, my body's still weak, so this would have been easier for me if I would have just done a live, and I feel like I can do lives with you guys and not have to do all the editing and uploading to YouTube, and then that way I don't get behind also. So there may be some times where I don't feel like totally bad, but I do have to slow down and I'm not able to do the whole process of editing and uploading, and I may just throw up some lives. Plus, I want to do lives anyway. I've wanted to do them for a while now. I just was not aware that I could do them. I thought I needed more subscribers. Boy, I can't believe I'm doing this without looking. It's kind of scary, and it's not as bad as I thought it would be, but I am going to quit before I poke my eyeball out. But now that I found out that I can do the lives, and I'm going in with MAC Soft and Gentle for a highlighter, and I am going to use the highlight brush that came in that brush set. I do plan to do lives because it's pretty bumming. Well, I won't say bumming. It's pretty depressing when I have to totally stop and then restart all the time. And maybe I feel okay enough to do a live. You know, I don't need to be totally off of social media. I just can't do the whole process of recording the video. I don't want to just sit and lay in bed and not be able to communicate with you guys, because I love making the content and commenting back and forth with everybody. That helps keep me upbeat and in a good mood. And since this is a chronic condition, you know, I don't mean to completely stop my life and be bedridden over it. So after getting the diagnosis last week, I'm making adjustments, and those are the major things that I did want to talk to you guys about. Right now, I'm going to go in with my NYX Mahogany Liner, and we'll see if I could talk and do this. Sometimes I can do that, and that's kind of scary. That means I talk too much. Usually I put a little bit more concealer on my lips around the lip line, so I need to add a little more. My lips are so dry. I'm sure everybody's starting to feel some of the dryness now that we're into the winter months. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions of how you want to do things as far as lives, like how far in advance you want me to post them, or if it's okay, you know, if I end up posting it that same day. I guess I'll try like the day before at least to post that I'm going to have one, because I wanted to get on a regular content upload schedule, and I guess I better quit before that turns out super bad. I'm going to come right back. I'm going to finish this and then come back. So lips are lined, and I'm looking for Old Faithful here in my makeup bag. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. If not, of course I can find it. I've got my NYX Honeymoon matte lipstick. This is my favorite lipstick. Not doing so hot of a job of applying it. Oh my gosh, this matte is not going so great right now, as dry as my lips are. And I'm going to go right in the center with this Revolution Chauffeur. Because everything is so stiff and just not moving. I was thinking about going on Instagram and doing more on Instagram, but every time I think about Instagram, because I really don't care for it, like it makes me feel stressed out and anxiety about Instagram. I feel like everything has to be so planned out and perfect before you put a post, not a poster, but a picture up. And that makes me not want to post on Instagram to try to keep up with you guys, because if I'm having a flare up and a setback, that's to have content where you look absolutely fabulous from the get-go and everything's so curated. Like, that's just not going to work for me. So I think I am going to stick to the community tab and doing the lives. I hope you guys like that format, but as much as possible I will stick to the way I've normally been doing things. Like I said, the goal is to get some pre-tape videos also for those downtimes that I do have, so I don't have to fall behind. But this is just so you know what's going on, or if the way I look kind of changes a little bit. It could be due to a medication that I'm taking or something like that that changes the way I look a little bit. Hopefully I won't have to do too much with the steroids. I've had enough steroids over the past year. That, accompanied with my prior poor eating habits, is attributed to a lot of weight gain. But yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. So, you know, this video is not so anyone feels sorry for me because of all the diagnosis that I got, but it's just so you do know what's going on, and hopefully I'll find a way to manage everything so I am able to stay consistent. But I feel weird saying this, you know. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing the palette and a little bit of the brushes, me getting to use those. I didn't use this big brush. My skin's so dry right now, I don't really want to set it with any setting powder. Besides what I put down the T-zone, the rest of my cheeks and everything are so dry, so I didn't get a chance to use this brush. And I didn't use a lot of the other smaller brushes. Who knows, you'll probably see them in some other upcoming video, but I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to support the channel. I'll see you guys soon.